Okay, it is 6 o'clock. So I think we should start our live with D25 session. Today's session is going to go for 1 hour. We haven't spoke to you on live with D25 yet this summer, so we figured the extended time would be great and something that we could utilize. So my name is Adam Harris. I'm the head of communications and storytelling for the district. And I host our live with D25 sessions. And it's just a great opportunity for us here at the district office or around the schools, maybe eventually, to just connect in a conversational way with everybody out there in the community that has an interest in District 25, and just another platform for me to get information out there and us to get information out there. And today we're joined by Superintendent Dr. Lori Bein. So Dr. Bein, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Adam.
You're welcome. And just unmute yourself. I didn't hear you. Are you unmuted?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. I got you. That was my fault. Okay, so we're rolling again. Okay, so Dr. Bein, a lot has happened these past couple weeks, honestly, like July, boom. Like we went racing towards the start of the school year, which is only a couple weeks away. I think this is a good opportunity. I think before we get to questions, which we have a bunch submitted, and anybody that's attending can submit questions. I'll monitor them and make sure that Dr. Bein has a chance to answer them. But can you catch us up on what's been going on in the district this past month and looking forward to the start of school?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Adam. And I guess I'll start by saying things continue to change. As you know, less than a half hour ago, we got updated guidance from the Illinois Department of Public Health and the Illinois State Board of Education. So we're going through that. I've looked through it a couple of times. I need some more time to go through it in detail, but it even has some updated information, I think, that will be helpful for schools as we figure out the layered mitigation strategies that we should have in place. But let me back up. So yeah, school's a few weeks out. And as our community knows, back in July, in mid-July, we made a decision in District 25 that we would be educating our community about the CDC and now the IDPH's strong recommendation for masks for the unvaccinated, but that we would also defer to parent discretion about that as we start the school year. And kind of like the guidance that just came out that says that when a community has low community spread, the IDPH suggests that a school could back off of things such as screening and back off of things such as mask wearing. But when a community has moderate spread, that mask wearing may not be one of the items that you would back off on. And we've been in both of those places. We've been in the low community spread, and now we're currently in the moderate spread. So one of the things that the board voted on in July was continued flexibility, which brings me to where we are at this moment. As when we passed that motion in mid-July, right around that exact same day, and as we moved forward, we saw our community spread increase. And so we're at a place now where we need to continue to be flexible. We're re-looking at our plan. We are talking with the health department about our specific plan. I meet with the health department pretty much on a weekly basis, sometimes more. And so we're reviewing our specific plan, especially as we see our community spread move into that moderate area. So in terms of masking, which I know is a topic of strong interest for all of us, I believe we'll have some updated, I know we'll have some updated information for our community. And most of that will should be finalized, at least finalized with what we know at the time at the next board meeting on August 12th. We will publish our agenda for the community with as much detail as we can at that time. the Tuesday before. So I think that's August 10th. And that will give everybody an idea of what's going to be in front of the board at the August 12th meeting. But in terms of masking, just like we got updated guidance now, and I've been working with our health department specifically on District 25. We also want to just be flexible in case more things change over the next couple of weeks. But again, we'll bring people along on that roller coaster as we go. So to finalize kind of the topic of masking, yes, the health department strongly recommends it for anyone who's unvaccinated. And we're going to continue to educate that, and we're going to look at our current situation and the guidance as it is now, and if it changes, and we're going to adapt and modify our plans along with that. So we're still in that adapting and modification stage from that situation. Also, for the new school year, some other things that are in place at this moment is we will return to a general, more typical schedule of experiences for our kids. We will utilize lockers at the middle school. We will change for PE class at the middle school. We will have our curriculum night for parents. We will have IEP meetings in person unless parents are asking for a remote option. We'll have parent conferences in person. But again, if parents are asking for a remote option, we will be looking to provide that the best we can. We will be going on field trips. And a couple of things related to field trips is anytime we use a bus to and from school, to and from a sports competition, to and from a field trip, we must all wear masks on a bus, whether we're vaccinated or not. That's part of CDC transportation law, so that is required. The other thing related to field trips is if we're going somewhere that is asking us to wear masks, we will be complying with that as the guest to that place or organization. And then finally, the other thing I can think of in terms of a more typical year is we will have our typical report cards, typical standards. So really, for our students, they should see a much more typical normal school year to what they're used to. We just need to update our community on, again, the masking as we finalize that. And a lunchroom will likely be needing to put some spacing in place for the lunchroom. We will have a more typical lunch in terms of menu items. We will have 2 hot choices at the middle school and 1 hot choice at the elementary. Lunch will be free for everyone this school year. Students will need to sign up if they're going to get a school lunch, but it is free. Federal government is subsidizing lunch for everybody in schools for this current year. So we're looking forward to a lot of our more typical experience. And again, we'll have updated information coming out to our community as we finalize our plans with our local health department, review the guidance that just came out today, and any guidance that comes out over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, great. Okay, first thing I want to say is I think, and just look for more information on lunch too as it comes out. I think you have to sign up or proactively like opt into breakfast being free. And then I think, and I talked to our director of lunch, our food services today. I think it's just typical, like if you walk through the line and get a free lunch. I think that's how it goes, I think.
Yeah, very likely. For breakfast, breakfast would be something that you would sign up for, that you wanted your student to have breakfast.
Mhm.
And there would be likely twice a week, and we would send breakfast home. So on Monday, we might send, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday breakfast home. And on Wednesday, we might send Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Thursday, Friday breakfast home with those students at the end of the day. So it would be breakfast items that they'd take home that they could have at home.
Okay. So as like I was walking in to the building, I went and grabbed something to eat really quick and walked in. Then yeah, that email came through with updated guidance, and I was like, okay, I gotta like look at this, And I feel like that, like, oh my gosh, I gotta look at this before like live at D25. I feel like when guidance comes out from IDPH, ISBE, CDC, now you're 100% on top of it, Dr. Bein, and me, I kind of get like overwhelmed with the different levels of guidance that come from different government organizations. And so one question that's been kind of flowing through chat a little bit that I've gotten a bit is like, who do we listen to? Like, do we listen to IDPH, ISBE, CDC, CCDPH? Like, which one of them gets to go, you have to wear masks, and then we go, okay, we're wearing masks, like, so how does that work?
Right. It's a little bit of a combination. So for the most part, we work with, we have the state Illinois Department of Public Health. That is kind of our statewide organization. They can hand off some decision-making ability to the local health departments. So we interact every week, at least weekly, with the Cook County Department of Public Health. And so Cook County can make some recommendations, and I'm not even sure if they can make rules, but they can do some things different from another county based on what's going on in what we're in, which is Region 10, which is Cook County minus Chicago and a few other suburbs. But our governing body is the Illinois Department of Public Health. So the health department can make public health law in emergency and non-emergency situations. But again, then they can offer some decision-making ability to the local. And so each school district is asked to interact with our county, so Cook County Department of Public Health. And that's how they kind of, get everybody taken care of. If we all were trying to interact with the state level at once, it'd be overwhelming.
Okay.
So while we are also on statewide, there's a statewide meeting that was happening weekly that really is for all the local health departments, but they allowed some superintendents to attend. So we also attended those, but at least every week we interact with the Cook County Department of Health, so that everything feeds from the state level through the county level health department. Now, part of the, I know, frustration for everybody, and yet I can understand it, is until now, right, the health department had some kind of rules for us. So masking required, right? And now they've switched to recommendation. And I understand that there are 800 plus school districts in the state of Illinois, for example, and some school districts strongly want it to be a local decision and not have the health department make something a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us say, you're the medical experts, tell us what we have to do and what we don't have to do. So the health department is trying to meet the needs of everybody, but their intent is clear. Their intent is clear that they strongly recommend masking for unvaccinated individuals. And again, like you said, with the guidance that just came out today, they actually go further into some scenarios of when, I was just highlighting, when they would suggest that a school consider allowing unvaccinated students to remove masks while indoors, and when they wouldn't suggest that. So we'll go through this again some more. And in addition to that, working directly on our plan with the Cook County Health Department and provide updates to our community as soon as we can.
Okay, so here's been a very, this question, I think, that I'm going to ask has like a thread through a lot of the questions that have been coming in.
Mhm.
So the intent is clear that like masks are highly recommended. Can you take us through and all right, can you just take us through your thought process in your recommendation to the board a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, absolutely. Within that, Illinois Department of Public Health guidance, that came out, right before, I think, our board meeting or right after our board meeting.
I think it was like July 9th. I think it was like right
Okay.
the week before, I think.
Thank
It was, yeah.
When you read the full guidance, they, yes, recommend, their first recommendation is that we recommend vaccination to our community. And then they talk about masking and distancing and disinfecting and all the different areas. And within that same document, they share that a local, I don't have the quote in front of me, school administrators should consider multiple factors when they make decisions about implementing layered prevention strategies, such as the level of community transmission, the vaccination coverage in the community, as well as among school people in our school, the screening testing availability, if there's outbreaks or increasing trends. So at that time, my thought process was, all right, well, our community transmission is in the low area. We are going to have the availability for screening testing. We haven't seen outbreaks throughout the summer or in the last couple of months of school. So it was looking at more of a balanced approach and strongly recommending, but considering some of those community things as well. Now, right now, if you look, our community trend has been increasing and in fact is in the moderate range. And as the Cook County Health Department has also come out reiterating their strong recommendation, we need to relook at our plan, and we were doing that anyway, right? We constantly are relooking at it. But with today's guidance, we'll look at it through that lens, talk with our local health department, hopefully tomorrow, in applying that, the new release. And by the August 12th meeting, be providing kind of a plan closer to the school year, because we also believe there'll be some more updated guidance coming over the next couple of weeks.
Gotcha. And the recommendation, which was approved, you've mentioned it also recommended the idea of flexibility as time moves forward, which like July 15th, that's where our head was at. And as time's moving, I mean, some guidance came out from IDPH today, and then more may be expected throughout the week from other organizations. So
yeah, Adam, but I get people's frustration in that the intent is clear from the health department that they recommend masking. And so I'm not trying to hide that at all, right?
Right.
In fact, our first line was that we would educate the community on that recommendation. So I get the frustration and the worry of people that we're going to abandon masking, or that will, but what I can say at this point is, of course, we're reconsidering everything we did with the information as it transitioned right around the same time of our meeting, and as it continues to transition. And we'll continue to watch. If we all of a sudden our community goes to, down to single digit cases, or if the guidance, well, again, if it went down to single digit cases, according to today's guidance, they would suggest that a school could back off of masking of unvaccinated. But we're going to continue to watch everything as it comes up. And we're going to react in the way that is safest for our students. We're not going to make everybody happy, and that's okay, right? This is not an issue that everybody agrees on, but we are going to do what we believe is the best and safest thing for our students and our staff.
Yeah. Okay. And what mitigation strategies will we still have in place in the fall? We've talked a lot about masking. What other mitigation strategies are we wanting to continue into the fall?
Sure. And I'll just say that again, at this point, all all of our health department partners say that masking can be removed outdoors. So that was something that we did like the last week of school, right? That changed. That continues forward. The other things that will continue is physical distancing. Now that has changed. We were doing our best, right, to maintain 6-foot distancing. And now the guidance says 3. So we will be doing our best. And in the vast majority of our classrooms throughout the district, we can easily have a 3-foot distance, at least at the elementary school. It's not quite so easy at the middle school, but we'll be setting up our rooms to have that distancing as much as possible. As well, during lunch, we just need to figure out how many rooms we need to have lunch in to have that distancing. We'll continue our disinfecting procedures. You might remember last year, people would talk about deep cleaning when there was a case. Our nightly cleaning procedures are what many are calling deep cleaning. So we'll continue that. It happens every single night, where we use I know I'm going to say the phrase wrong, but like an electrostatic sprayer that covers all surfaces with our disinfectant. So we'll have that going on. As you know, we had our HVAC ventilation system rated by an industrial engineering company. We had them look at it right when that was February 2020, right before we went home for spring break, and had that rated highly so that we knew we had the best ventilation system, or at least exceeded ventilation systems. We'll continue with opening windows where we can. And then we'll also be bringing to the board a plan for screening testing for their review, where it's the SHIELD test, similar to what people may have heard U of I had. And we'll have that available for students. Families will be able to opt out of that if they choose not to do that. But the strength of screening testing is that you can find out if COVID is coming into your buildings through asymptomatic people.
Wow.
So that will be a big difference that not all schools had that in the past. It is now free and available to all schools. So we're working on that, and we'll provide information to families when we have it. I think those are the big ones that I'm thinking about. We're not going to be cleaning desks in between every class at middle school this year, but we will have those cleaning supplies available. And we'll also have the dividers available for kids who want to use those.
And busing, we have masking is.
Yeah, again, that's a mandatory public transportation. So just like when we go to the airport or we get on a train, that applies to public transportation. School buses are considered public transportation. So everyone, bus driver, all students, or all adults on our buses will be vaccinated. Or sorry, I said vaccinated, will be masked, must wear a mask.
The screening testing SHIELD, so that, how will maybe we don't know, like if we're going to be utilizing that, where it'd be something that we'd be doing like once a week or once a day, or like how, do we know how we might be utilizing that yet, or is that too early?
So we're finalizing plans with SHIELD, and it would go to the board for board approval to allow us to have this. But basically the way it works is everyone is signed up for SHIELD testing, but families will get an option to opt their student out. So someone might say, for example, I'm going to opt my student out because they're already vaccinated. And we'll say, great. And we'll also be saying, if you want to share proof of vaccination with us, that will help us never have to consider your child a close contact, right? People who are vaccinated won't have to quarantine, won't have to be called out of class to see if they're a close contact, won't need to go through SHIELD testing. But anybody that does go through SHIELD testing, it looks like it'll be a once a week experience. And We're setting up the logistics of that, so that we're still working out. But they would do the shield testing is where you kind of dribble or spit a little bit into a tube. All of that gets taken to a lab. It's a PCR-T. I think I'm saying that right. It's not a rapid test, but it is a test. We'd have results within 24 hours. And it would tell us, for example, Dryden School sent in 500 tests, 500 negative, 0 positive, or they would take Dryden School sent in 500 tests, 499 are negative, 1 is positive. And then the school nurse would be able to determine who that person was. Parents would be notified. If someone is a part of screening, so Adam, if I'm positive, and you're close contact to me, right? First of all, if we're both wearing masks, you're not a close contact. If both people are masked, you do not have to quarantine. But if I'm not wearing a mask and you are, or you're not wearing a mask and I am, you're considered a close contact. But if you're participating in the screening testing once a week, you just then will test an additional every other day. So you'll test on day 1, day 3, day 5, day 7, and you won't have to go home because you're continuing to participate in that screening testing. So it's kind of a, what did I see it called in the new guidance? It's called test to stay, right? So if you're part of the screening testing, you won't have to quarantine as long as every other day you continue to test negative.
Yeah.
So it's another way to keep people from quarantining, right? Because especially at the beginning of the school year, all year, of course, all year, but especially at the beginning, we don't want students to have to quarantine. We want our students to be in school, getting instruction from their classroom teacher, being with their friends and being, acclimating to their new school community. So one way to make sure kids don't have to quarantine is by everybody wearing masks, at least those who are unvaccinated wearing masks. Another way to keep people from quarantining is by participating in the shield screening test.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So here's a question. How is shield testing effective if families can opt out?
So that's a good question, and that's a reality, right? For shield testing shield testing will be effective in terms of not having to quarantine method for those who participate. Shield testing is more useful, more impactful if we have a large amount of our community who participate, because shield testing, for the first number one thing shield testing does is it tells us if COVID's come into our school.
Okay.
Right? I may not have any symptoms. I may feel great, but I could have COVID, right? So shield testing tells us, oh, there is a COVID case here, and we can identify that. So before, that child does develop symptoms or before COVID spreads to others. So shield testing, and again, this is through the CDC, IDPH, Cook County, American Academy of Pediatrics, everyone. Screening testing is a way to really know what is our local data and to really more quickly respond if there's a positive case than we'd otherwise be able to. It's an important tool from a community perspective for our community as school. But again, parents will have the right to opt out of that. I will tell you that from the shield company side of things, we must be able to have 100 tests per day for them to continue to provide shield testing in our schools. And so we'll have to see, but it'll probably be something like 2 schools might test on Monday, 2 schools on Tuesday, 2 schools on Wednesday.
Right.
To see how the logistics work out. But you're right, if someone opts out, we don't know if that person is positive unless they're symptomatic.
Right.
And then at that point, we'll have the testing like we had last year, where the Binex Now testing, where we can provide that to symptomatic students with parent permission on the day that they're symptomatic. In place of sending them home to quarantine, we can test them here, and that's a 15-minute result.
This next question is about the priority of eliminating mitigation strategies. So the question is basically saying, okay, so why initially think about eliminating masking or moving away from masking? Why not just eliminate the mitigation strategy of electrostatic cleaning at night or whatever? So like, I guess, how are we prioritizing the mitigation strategies to then move away from them, or see, like, I don't know. Yeah.
Sure.
How are we
Yeah.
prioritizing the mitigation strategy?
No, that's a really good question. And I'll have to say again, as I pulled the guidance that just came out within the hour
Yeah.
again, and again, they're just giving educational examples to assist schools in determining how to use prevention strategies. And in the one that they provide here, when you have low transmission, you could either consider no longer requiring physical distancing or suspending screening or allowing unvaccinated students to remove masks while indoors.
Mhm.
Again, that when the CDC and IDPH list their strategies, the first one they emphasize is vaccination. The second one they emphasize is correct mask wearing, no doubt about it. Our electrostatic cleaning is something that we've been doing, before COVID. So that's something that's going to stay in place as our typical.
Gotcha.
So it's
Gotcha.
really just, yeah, I don't know. I get the question, right? Why not hold on to masking and reduce some of the others? And I think at the time I'm trying to, number one, make sure that our kids and our staff are safe, but also find the balance for our community interests at the same time.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think like, I didn't want to keep bringing it back to masking, because I will say, like, if you're just joining us, early on in Live with D25, we talked about the idea of the motion passed, suggested and recommended by Dr. Bein on the 15th, also allowed for the idea of flexibility and continued education, and which is what we're getting right now, so I think that just kind of knowing that it's just something that we are constantly assessing every single day, and reassessing and reassessing and reassessing.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I'm pretty open person. It was unusual for me to make the recommendation that I did, but I really did feel confident. Again, based on what we saw in June, 3 weeks out from the end of the school year, we had 100 people who needed to be quarantined. 2 years out, we dropped to 50. The last week out, we dropped to 25.
Mhm.
And then the 5 weeks of summer school with 850 kids, we are not aware of one positive case. We are not aware of one even COVID case among those 850 students during that time.
And the Arlington Heights number,
And
I was
our local,
monitoring.
our state, right? Everything was moving in that direction.
Mhm.
And yet on that, right around that board meeting date, we were starting to see some increase throughout the state and in the community. And literally the day after the board meeting, I was like, all right, did we do the right thing? Do we need to reconsider? So I'm always reevaluating many times a day. And I believe that's where we're at right now. We're reevaluating on what's going on around us, as well as our individual plan with the Cook County Health Department's input.
Yeah, okay. A lot of the stuff also that you said at the beginning of Live with D25, beyond not saying like the mask talk and the mitigation strategies aren't serious and they need a lot of time, but then the stuff that's a little lighter that gets me kind of excited is the idea that school is going to feel a lot more normal this year, which is cool. And, kids are going to be eating their lunch, and like the expanded lunch options. I interviewed one kiddo in Summer U, and he was so excited about, middle school lunch again, and just little things like that. So putting that all in perspective to like where we were last year at this time, it is something that I've been really reflecting on and going, okay, like our kids are coming to school like where last year they were not. And I think that that's a cool thing to kind of like keep in perspective for me. I'm excited to go in there and start interviewing some kiddos again.
Yeah, this week is when all of our administrators are coming back. And it's good to be talking about plans for moving forward. Again, with still, right, the pandemic's not gone, right?
Right.
So all of those other conversations are still very important. But it is nice to be taking, just making the assumption and that we're having school. And we're having school 5 full days a week, and we're excited to have kids back and have their more typical instruction, and have them be with their friends and provide them, again, all those activities, especially like PTA and ABC 25, all of the wonderful events they bring that make school even more fun and connect our community. It's really excited to be at that place. But yeah, we can't push aside the fact that we still have a pandemic, and we're still going to have changes. That's the one thing I can guarantee people, right?
Mhm.
We have guidance that came out today, and we're going to adapt to that guidance. And we have increasing pandemic numbers. A week from now, maybe they're down again. Maybe the guidance has changed. So we're going to try to be as proactive and as open as we can, but also react as quickly as we can. So again, at this point, I think, Adam, you and I'll probably send something out to everyone, because not everybody can be on this D25 live, to let people know, right? We're reviewing, and we're going to have updates, and definitely by the August 12th meeting, we'll have updated information, and we're just going to keep working with our health department partners and making adjustments for the school year.
Are there any is there any guidance out about like band or gym or I think there was some restrictions. Let's talk band specifically, I guess.
Yes.
Is there any guidance out for that?
Yeah, so we have a band camp coming up for some of our students. And for that, right now, the guidance for band chorus has not been updated, but we're watching for updates. So what that means right now is, like for our band camp, for example, this summer, when they're outside, they can play outside. They should try to distance the best they can, but can definitely be doing band practices outside. They can do band practices inside as well, but during that time, they should have their masks with the slits that we bought, as well as, I think they call them bell covers, right? So covers
Right.
that kind of go on the instruments that blow air through them. Same thing for choirs and singing. Singing is allowed but masked indoors right now, unmasked outdoors. And again, that people should be distanced the best they can in either situation. But we're hearing that there'll be some updates to music performances. So we're watching for those. In terms of sports, again, outdoors, no masks. I believe we have some people already kind of starting to practice for cross country. You do not need masks when you are in outdoor sports. We're watching for the Illinois High School Association, which also has an elementary arm to it, and any updates on inside. Now, I know that I did see something in this evening's update that talks about screening for athletics is, again, really recommended, because it can really help as you're screening athletes, especially when they're in indoor sports. Really provide updated information about if someone's testing positive for COVID or not. And then I believe the last I saw is some masks for indoor sports. But again, I want to wait and see what comes out through IHSA and IESA in conjunction with the Illinois Department of Public Health. And we should get that information soon.
And then another question that came across was, could there be different, I guess, rules or guidelines that we would put out for our community that we would abide by between middle school and elementary school? Or, like, could you see possibly, I mean, anything's possible,
sure.
right?
Sure,
But
sure,
like, I don't know. Yeah, a different rules, different ways.
And there
to
are some
school.
school districts that are doing that, right? So because the middle school, in our example, our 2/3 of our middle school has the opportunity to vaccinate. And where in our elementaries, none of them have the opportunity. So could there be some different things for the middle school and the elementary? There could be. I will say that if, right, the health department guidance does not say something different for middle than for elementary. They say unvaccinated people are strongly recommended to wear masks. How you, I guess, follow through on that, monitor that at a middle school can be very difficult. And while we will likely ask people to share the status of their vaccination with us, we cannot require it. But we can say, if we don't know that you're vaccinated, then we will have to treat you like, we'll have to quarantine, things like that. So, and the difficulty for our sixth graders, who most of them are not 12, but they are starting to turn 12 every day. So it's a little more difficult to monitor that at the middle school. And so that would be something we'd ask parents to, of course, help us with. And have your unvaccinated child, if they're at the middle school, know that it's really important to wear a mask.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, like, are we going to be able to monitor vaccination versus unvaccination students or, staff? I know that we've talked about that in the past on these Live with D25s. Is that something we're going to be able to monitor or want to monitor?
Right. So I believe we will be reaching out, requesting that people let us know. We cannot mandate that people let us know. Now, in many vaccinations, how like for certain grades, like sixth grade, you have to have certain vaccinations, or for kindergarten, you have to have certain vaccinations. Right. Those are determined by the health department at the federal or the state level. We as a school district cannot mandate a vaccine for students. So we can't say you have to get your COVID vaccine or you can't come to school here. That can be determined by the state or federal health department. So all the vaccinations that you have to have your doctor fill out the form and report to us, those are mandated by our health departments. Unless someone has a religious exemption or a medical exemption. We don't know yet, will our health departments mandate the COVID vaccine in the future? And so that we don't have control of. We can mandate masks in school for students or for staff. At this moment, we're not. But again, I have to stress, we're reevaluating. We're talking with our local health department. I do believe I know we'll have updated information. I can't say 100% what it will be, but that is something that we can do. And we'll definitely be continuing to monitor and making that decision by the August 12th board meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I think that, so we have 15 minutes left. And yeah, so far, thank you so much for answering these questions candidly, because I think they're valid questions. And I do know you, I've known you for 6 years, and I've known you to be someone that would, you're open to questions and you're open to answering them. And so if people haven't felt like I've gotten to your question, I'm sorry. But I know that Dr. Bein is open to fielding it via email and be direct or meet with you. So
Yeah, and Adam, I'm looking off to the side because I'm looking at the current guidance because I know I read something about close contacts and quarantine. So, oh, here it is. Another question people have asked is, does a school district have to quarantine people when they're close contacts?
mhm.
Or is that a recommendation? And what about contact tracing? Do you have to do contact tracing? And I'll tell you that that's something school district attorneys are working on because there's so many intricacies. But here is, and I'm just going to read this paragraph, but in full disclosure, right? There's 12 pages here. So it could be I read through something that's a little different from it, but it says, in Illinois, contact tracing in combination with isolation and quarantine is required per Part 690, Control of Communicable Disease Code, Subpart 1. Further, the Communicable Disease Code requires mandatory reporting of any suspect, confirmed, or probable case to the local health department immediately within 3 hours. So in that paragraph, right, it is saying that contact tracing and isolation and quarantine is required by the Control of Communicable Disease Code. Again, we'll still be having our attorneys kind of, in fact, as soon as we saw this, I sent this to some of the district attorneys so that they can read through this as well and provide their legal opinion. But there is, health code that public health departments do have the right to make some legal requirements like that.
My fault. I think I know what I'm going to be reading a little bit tonight. It's just like new guidance. And this came from the Illinois Department of Public Health, right?
And the Illinois State Board of Education. The same thing they did last year, whenever there was new health guidance, they created a frequently asked questions.
Mhm,
Last year, they had a rolling frequently asked questions document.
mhm.
And I would assume now this is the start of a new one for this year.
Gotcha. Okay, because yeah, that's the part that does, again, just me, and I'm not sure if anybody else out there feels that way too, but that's the part where I have to take a step back and go, okay, these are guidelines set by the Illinois Department of Public Health based on the CDC that came down to IDPH, and then IDPH ends up working with ISBE to put out the frequently asked questions to apply the guidance to schools, because there's a bunch of different ways that it can be applied to.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So I think, I guess to recap, and then let me know if this feels right.
Mhm.
The board voted on the motion on the 15th that you recommended, saying a lot of things. And one of the things was masks are optional for students based on their choice and people in the buildings. Yeah.
I would say, yes, you could definitely interpret it that way. I think what we were trying to say was those two things together, right? That we're going to educate the community that the CDC strongly recommends, but that we're going to defer to parent decision. So yeah, another way of saying that definitely is mask optional.
Right.
But we really meant it as, right, number one, we're going to be educating people that this is strongly recommended.
Yeah. And so here it is on our COVID section of the site. So when you're on our district homepage, there's a banner up top that kind of gives a very basic overview of what we're up to with COVID. And then here's our COVID section with masks and some links to places and close contacting and quarantine procedures, food distribution, which this is also being changed like as we make decisions and change things. So that's a good place to land. But the idea of reevaluating, and I really appreciate you bringing us through your thought process for the recommendation. And then that allows me, and I'm hopefully everybody out there, to understand your thought process moving forward. Your thought process doesn't stop just with that recommendation being approved. Your thought process continues every single day. And so if that's how you got to that recommendation on the 15th, I imagine there's more thought process moving forward to just keep reevaluating what we could do or what we need to do in the district.
Yeah, and I would just like to add, Adam, I know we're about to wrap up. It looks like about time, but I do welcome everybody's emails, phone calls. I'm happy to meet in person. And some of people I'm asking, through emails, why don't we meet in person? I'm totally understand people's frustration, people's worry. No matter what decision we make, right? There are people that are worried about whichever decision we make and people that are frustrated with whichever decision we make. I understand that. I accept that. I welcome people sharing their frustrations with me. I would ask that let's try to stay professional. But again, I understand we're talking about our kids' safety. We're talking about our community's safety, and that's important. But yeah, please do, feel free to reach out. I know we have petitions out in our community with different opinions. And I totally support people participating in petitions and expressing themselves that way. I will say this is not right, if you have this many number, you win, or if you have this many number, you win, right? It's good for me and us to have that information, and we take it all in. But we're going to continue to work with our health department on our local plan, as well as what's going on in our community, and continue to be flexible, and make changes to our plan, make updates and communicate those as we have them.
Great. So that as of right now, the next board meeting is on August 12th. But we anticipate communicating to our community prior to that, I imagine.
Yeah, well, I think, Adam, I'll ask that, you and I kind of send kind of a summary of this conversation out so that our whole community has it. A lot of
Great.
people weren't able to participate today and can't watch the video, kind of where we're at and what we're looking at. And then in general, board agendas and board information goes public 48 hours before the board. We tend to put ours out Tuesday at 3:00 on the week of a board meeting, unless we still don't have some information. We might go till 7, but usually we go. We published it at about 3:00, and we'll probably even push that out a little more this year, since people are so, understandably interested in it. And at that point, people can see the board agenda, see a lot of the supporting documents, see what the conversation will be, although we never know for sure where it goes, but at least the start of it. And then people again can watch the board meeting, they can attend as well, and they'll have as much information as we have to give prior to that meeting on the 12th.
And one last question that just came in. The question is, when will we need to make the decision between in-person and remote learning? And I want to just address that right now, that from my understanding, there's going to be no decision. It's in-person learning.
That's right. There is not a remote option. The only time remote is offered is when a student has to quarantine. So if a student's positive, or if a student is a close contact and they have to quarantine, we then will have a remote classroom that those children can log into during however many days they have to be quarantined. But otherwise, there's not a remote option for people to choose. It's just whenever someone might have to quarantine because they're positive or they're a close contact.
Okay, yeah. Again, this will be posted at se25.org/live with D25. Scheduling any future ones of these, I think they're helpful. They will be up there as well. That's just the homepage for everything live with D25. I will get this up tomorrow, so that'll be good. And yeah, we can work on a communication that'll go out to the community that can link to this as well. So yeah, I like really, we have about 6 minutes left, Dr. Bein, but I just want to say like, thank you so much. I really enjoy doing this because journalism is my background. So I like asking questions. I like trying to get things clarified. And I never feel nervous to ask you any question. So like, thank you so much for being open to all of them. And yeah, like as open, as much as we know, you know, that's what we're trying to deliver there.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. And it's right. This is a challenging time for everyone, and we've done some things well, and some things we do differently. Definitely, as we move forward, I know you always urge me to over communicate. So we will be over communicating as we go through the next few weeks. Again, to let people know what we're thinking. We're going to be providing some more information as you log on to that board agenda website, so you can see some more of the materials that the board reviews as they make their decisions as well. And so bear with us if you're getting a lot of emails. We just want to get everybody as clear information as we can to start the school year. The other thing I'll just add, one point to my comment about remote options. The only other option we've always had, every district must have an option for students who medically cannot access the school day. And so if you have a child who cannot come to school for a medical reason, typically you would reach out to either your school principal or Dr. Laswicki, Peg Laswicki, our assistant soup for student services, and they can walk through the process of the medical situation and how we can provide instruction if a child's medically unable to come to school, whether because of COVID or our current pandemic or outside of the pandemic.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. And we do have 4 more minutes. So here's another question that I feel like could be simply answered. Will changes to mask requirements only occur at board meetings?
At this point, yeah, the Board of Education is voting on our plan, our pandemic plan. In order to change the current plan, yes, that would go with my recommendation to a board, and then the board would vote on it. I don't know. The question is just making me think, right? The board can create a motion that provides some ability for the superintendent moving forward to kind of reinstate, pull back, reinstate, pull back. But at this point, from where we are now, any change would be through a recommendation to the board and their approval of that.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Bein.
All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yeah. See ya. Okay. So thank you all for hanging with us. Numbers are going to quickly drop here, but and thank you so much for your questions. Yeah, hopefully we're able to answer all your questions as best as possible. Again, if you don't feel like you got your question answered, I'm sorry. That's not on purpose. So just shoot me an email, aharris@sc25.org, and Dr. Bein, lbein at sc25.org, and your question will get answered for sure. But yeah, this is a fluid situation, and we're trying to be as open as possible. So thank you all very much. And I hope you have a good rest of your week. It's Monday. Yeah. So have a good rest of your week, and I'll see everybody in the next couple weeks.